Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. Worked a nice draw in my second game of the day today. The first one was, or was that the first game? The first game I lost, I believe. Yeah, 43 moves. Close game. Just didn't. I haven't analyzed it yet, so I don't know much more beyond that. Let's play game in 10 minutes per side. All right. Good game. Good game. All right, Gravitrons and Mom. We're doing good, Ma.
I'm doing really well.
You're doing good on those boxes, hey. Um, let's go over this game in detail, and then I'm gonna leave our broadcast to help with the boxes. I feel this was an accurate game. This was, wow, hey, one of my better games here, folks. I'm glad to see high scores on the accuracy front, and just to make things as per my usual way of doing this, we're gonna finish this out all the way to checkmate against the computer on its highest level. So we're gonna capture this pawn and make sure that my opponent can't advance his, her, or they pawn. Go to f4 is fine, and then nom nom nom, gobble gobble, another pawn is gone, and soon enough we are going to be enforcing checkmate. The H pawn promotes to queen. And checkmate. I'm really proud of this game. I felt I played really well. The accuracy sort of bore that out. And let's review the game. My opponent resigned after White's 34th move, so we'll use that to start. And this bit at the end here, we probably don't need to go in too much detail within that, at least not beyond seeing what the game, how accurate the game is played out till checkmate. I like the played out till checkmate because, like I said, it anchors part of the calculation. It makes the accuracy figures and the estimated ELO figures a little bit more stable, a little bit better sometimes, but and more interpretable because we're all playing out the same thing. Even if one checkmate is so very different from the other checkmate, believe me, I get that. But I play games out to checkmate a lot, and then also for my own preparation as a player. If I'm held to task at a tournament, I want to be able to finish off that game nice and neat and without any heartbreak. Okay, so here we are. We have this is the game as originally, where we can see there's very high accuracy this game. And I started with King's Pawn game, sort of known territory, Philidor defense. And in the Philidor, after d6, there's a lot of moves for white here. I pretty much go to and play, and I'm glad to play pawn to d4, and just open things up right away. At least that's what I chose to do this time. I captured on e5, and we have sort of this slight advantage for white early in the game, where the board is not tilted one way or the other, but it's white's turn to move. I felt invited to go in for an early attack against f7. I think it was the correct move. It's nice that I opened the board up early because now my dark squared bishop has protection over the g5 knight as he goes into this foray against f7, or this attack against f7. He doesn't lose himself. No pun intended. He doesn't lose himself on g5 to the black queen, for else otherwise the white dark squared bishop would get the queen. So that knight is going in with covering fire, so to speak. Queen f3 was accurate, and I'm already making my opponent play accurate moves just to keep the game alive with knight to h6. Queen f3 puts more pressure, all this pressure, on f7. Remember, the most traditional ways of challenging the queen on f3 will usually leave open the option to swing over to b3, like in Night at the Opera, the Paul Morphy brilliancy that he played against Count Izzard, or two fellows with kind of strange names, but Count Izzard. And remember, he originally develops his queen to f3, I'm pretty sure, then swings over to b3 for this thematic attack against both the b7 pawn and still buttressing the attack against f7. Queen to f6. And I said, well, let's try that. We'll keep black's bishop guarding b7, and we're still strong in our insistence that we may attack f7. My opponent challenges the queen. I thought this was a strong move. You can't just let your opponent, from black's point of view here, you can't just let your opponent stack pieces all lined at a very important square. You have to do something to fight back at that point. I thought knight to c5 was good at that, disrupting the battery of queen on b3, bishop on c4. So this is a move that takes an idea to beat. And queen back to f3 is fine. Notice that queen takes f3, knight takes f3, leads to this strong threat of bishop takes h6. Then after g takes h6, white has the go-ahead to capture on f7. Not enough pieces protecting, just the lone king protecting f7. And if the rook moves, then there are ways most likely to check with maybe on d6. The knight moves to d6 with check, and the rook on g8 is exposed. So after the check is dealt with, white picks up probably the other half of the exchange with bishop takes g8. So anyway, bishop to e3 is some kind of miscue here. I'm not too worried about that. And I initiated a queen trade on f6. So yeah, here's some miscalculation. White calculates accurately here. All the way from the queen takes queen, bishop takes queen, then bishop takes e6, bishop takes g5 is the miscue. Does white pick up on it? I do. With bishop takes c8. Because after, if we're keeping tit for tat on the material, white is now 3 points of material ahead. So the logic would dictate, as my opponent played, or not logic, but some kind of thing would dictate bishop takes e3 would even things out. And sometimes it would, except bishop takes b7 captures a pawn with tempo against the rook, who's in danger. The corresponding move would be bishop takes f2, check. But when black star squared bishop captures on f2, that bishop is immediately in peril. The king can capture in return immediately. Whereas when white captures on b7, the rook must move to b8 to try to instigate a capture or a threat. Takes that one extra tempo of initiative for this to fail for black and win for white. So bishop takes f2. My opponent chose bishop takes f2. Technically, I think computer best would probably be rook to b8 and let bishop takes c6 check occur. The king deals with the check. Notice that this bishop is still living the charmed life as not being in any peril yet. And so when the king moves out of the check, since the check is distant enough, white has time to play pawn takes e3, capturing the bishop on e3 and winning the piece, and with it the game. So as white is up a bishop and a pawn, then white's gonna seal this in. A little bit of bait here. It looks like bishop to d5 is a consolidating move in the center. The light squared bishop's so very strong. He's hitting at f7 on a half open file, but there's also a little bit of a trap built in. After rook takes b2, bishop to b3, and that rook is completely trapped, my friends. I mean, the idea then is just for white to get his knight in position to capture that rook before there's any kind of freeing attempt by black, and that's exactly what happened. So my opponent caught wind to that idea, caught onto that idea, and starts moving his knight more towards the action. But it turns out that these rescue attempts by rook or knight here are too slow, because even with knight on c4 to threaten b2, my opponent has placed his rook well, rook well on c8 against the c4 knight. And you think that might be, well, okay, it's off, but if rook takes c4, then bishop takes c4, then maybe rook takes c2, white has lost a knight and a pawn for a rook, and especially in a situation where there's a mostly open board like this, white has done well in that exchange of material. The best move. This is another way to keep the material. For black captured on c2, it's just another way to settle this matter, and it does still settle in white's favor. And the rest is going to just sort of even itself out as I have pretty much an extra piece, and this is how you win a game of chess with an extra piece. I like my opponent's fight here, my opponent's gumption here with knight to d4. Yes, a strong and powerful knight here. And I said, yes, I will trade the exchange for that knight and a pawn because I can win with the extra piece. And that kind of settled the matter. A little bit of endgame accuracy here, and white has won. Alright, so the playing out to all the way to checkmate, we see actually makes the accuracy even higher. 83, 92, and 85, 91. Well, however it is, this is how I finished the game against the computer. You can see though, I mean, please, we can see this, right? The bishop's going to capture at least one of these pawns, and then somebody's going to be free while I still have an extra bishop to dump if I really have to along the a file, but that's not really going to happen. So, alright, I think that's going to be it for this session. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.